Well, welcome once again. This is the Doctor of Digital podcast. The purpose of the show is to transform your business and life with education and inspiration. I introduce busy people to trends and ideas and improving your life by highlighting authors, leaders, and game changers you should know. How can you turn marketing chaos into unstoppable momentum, even without a huge budget? John Dwyer, bestselling author of the Avalanche Leads Formula and the Wow Manifesto, has spent decades helping businesses create explosive growth using innovative, proven strategies. Today, we'll dive into the creative, high impact methods behind John's legendary wow factor marketing philosophy, giving you tools you can use immediately to attract more leads, more customers, and more success. John is a marketing powerhouse with a track record of driving record breaking campaigns for global brands like McDonald's, KFC, 7-Eleven, and the NRL. His signature approach has helped countless businesses generate simultaneous sales and brand loyalty. He's even persuaded Jerry Seinfeld to front a major advertising campaign, an achievement few can claim. Through his books, John empowers entrepreneurs, small business owners, and marketers with real world techniques to stand out, drive results, and win in today's noisy marketplace. In this episode, we'll explore John's game changing marketing insights from how he created one of the most successful ad campaigns in history to why conventional discount marketing is a trap. John shares refreshing strategies and thinking to drive lead generation and customer loyalty. Whether you're just starting out or looking to re energize your brand, you'll leave this episode with practical ideas to unlock the avalanche of new business. After listening, you'll be able to stop blending in and start creating marketing magic that truly works. I encourage you to pick up John's books, The Avalanche Leads Formula and the Wow Manifesto, to dive deeper into his timeless principles. Visit his websites for more, and if you want to truly ignite your growth, connect with John directly to explore how his expertise can transform your marketing results today. With that, I want to welcome John to the program. How are you doing today, John?
Good, Mick. I want to meet that guy. That guy sounds really, really good.
I hope so. That's what I'm looking forward to as well. Let's invite him. How about that?
I've got a lot to live up to, I should say, with an intro like that. Gosh.
Well, always curious about how you got started, and tell us a little bit about how do you get in this strange game that you're in and writing books about it.
It is a strange game, yes. And look, the game, just for viewers and listeners, the game is direct response marketing, which is very different from just overall marketing. And the best way to explain that, Mick, is that if you go to a traditional, and by the way, as you can tell from my accent, I'm from down under, so that's where we run our business, but we have lots of clients right around the world. So these days, of course, you don't have to be selling to businesses that are in your own backyard. Direct response marketing is different from, what you'll hear from most advertising agencies. If you walk into an ad agency, they'll say, look, we'll help you build your brand so that people will taste your product. We flip that, and we teach businesses to get people to taste their product so that they'll fall in love with the brand. And I guess the best example of that would be if a cafe was giving out little, paper shot glasses of coffee when people were walking past at lunchtime.
Sure, yeah.
Or it might be a seafood shop that gives out calamari samples, at lunchtime and dinner time. So you have the calamari sample, you love it, but then you go in and spend $100 on seafood. Yeah. And so that's what direct response marketing is all about. As that phrase infers, it's all about putting something on Facebook or TikTok or TV or radio, whatever it might be today, and getting a direct response tomorrow. So that's what direct response marketing is.
Interesting, though. You've spanned a lot of fields, and so I'm a Seinfeld fan, like just everybody else. I'm curious, how does somebody get Seinfeld to do what you did, and then how do you get in transition to books and doing other things as well?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Mick, because I've milked the Seinfeld stuff for about 10 years now. So if Jerry knew what he did for my career, I think he'd put his hand out and say, give me some money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what happened? I had a bank down under. It was a building society, but the same thing. And it was called the Greater Building Society. And like any bank, they want to sell home loans. And so what happened is that they engaged my services as a consultant. And I looked at what they were doing, and they were just doing the normal home loan advertisements online and on TV saying get a home loan at 6.2% or 4.8, whatever it was at the time. And I said, look, you're in a sea of sameness. Every other bank is doing exactly the same thing, selling on price. In other words, selling on the home loan interest rate. And all of these banks, as you might know, Wells Fargo, all of the big guys, what they do is give you a 1% honeymoon rate for the first year, and then it goes back up after a year. They get you in with a 1% honeymoon rate. They all do it, so there's no point of difference. And I was doing some TV commercials at the time for a travel discount company. And I said, look, how about I introduce them to you and forget your 1% honeymoon rate? That's not doing anything special because every bank's doing it. Why don't you give that to the travel company and they'll give you a fantastic deal on a vacation? And that's what we did. We came on TV and social media, and it was the only bank in the world that said, listen, get a home loan or swap from the Wells Fargo bank across to us and have a home loan with us, and we'll give you a free vacation. Down under, we call it holiday. We'll give you a free holiday, but it's the same thing. And it went nuts. In the first 3 or 4 years, they took billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of extra home loans. And this idiot who you're talking to charged a consultancy fee instead of a percentage of the extra home loan. But anyway, I'm a fool. And about 3 years into it, I convinced Jerry Seinfeld to be the spokesperson for the bank. And that came about because it was so successful. We had picked up all the low-lying fruit in that first 3 years. And the bank management said to me, look, we want to go up a level. Building societies generally have a working class audience. So they're going to be a plumber or a butcher or baker. We want to go up to white collar workers, people who are wearing suits. And I said, look, that's the Wells Fargo Bank. That's not you. That's not your target audience. You're a credit union, a building society. Then your audience are going to be working class people. Leave it with me and I'll see what I can do. And as it turned out, I thought, well, the best way to take it up a level in terms of the target audience would be to have a celebrity or sports star as an endorser. Yeah. And that's what we did. We put a survey out to all of the people saying, who do you think would be a good endorsement person for the Greater Building Society? Because we'd already had a pretty cheeky brand. It was sort of, don't get your home loan from another bank. They will treat you like a number. Come across to the Greater Building Society and you get a free vacation and we'll treat you like a person. So we've been a bit cheeky, bagging out the other banks. And as it turns out, the survey results came back. Jerry Seinfeld came first, Jim Carrey came second, Robin Williams came third. I thought, what have I done? How the hell am I going to get these guys? I'm an idiot again, an idiot. And as it turned out, I won't bore you with the details, but I annoyed Jerry's manager, a guy called George Shapiro out of Beverly Hills, Hollywood. I annoyed him until he eventually answered all my voicemails that I'd leave at midnight and said, look, what's this all about? And I told him, and he said, leave it with me, and I'll put it to Jerry. And many months down the track, Jerry said, yeah, sounds like fun. Let's do it. So Jerry stood outside a mock-up bank of the Greater Building Society, right, not far from where he lives in New York. And he just did the commercials. I went backwards and forwards for 3 years, and it took the home loan business for this bank through the stratosphere.
Wow, yeah. And, part of what you're doing is, let's say you're very successful at what you do, and then you also written some books. So I'm always curious, it's a different ball game there. So how did you do that? And how do you do it when you're very busy? Because a lot of business leaders, I think, should be doing this, but they don't always do that. So how did you accomplish that?
Yeah, well, when I've written mine, ChatGPT wasn't around, so I had to actually write it. And look, dictaphone, the old-fashioned dictaphone, which is the size of your mobile phone, where you speak into it and record. That really was, how I used to do things. These days, of course, it's AI. And so what happened? I hit the seminar circuit. If you're going to market to small to medium-sized business owners, then the Anthony Robbins model makes sense because you have 50 or 150 businesses come into a hotel, conference room, and they're there for a few hours or for the full day, and you put your song and dance on and show them, your wizardry, if you like. And at the end of that, there will be a percentage of people who want to buy your marketing advisory program. That's just the way it works. And Anthony Robbins, of course, has been the world leader at that. So that's what I did. We were in the corporate world right up until the Seinfeld thing. So I was, helping out down under McDonald's and 7-Eleven and Rupert Murdoch's newspapers. We did all the big scratch bingos for his newspapers back in the day, and KFC and all of that. And I said to my wife about 10 or 11 years ago, I said, look, we're not getting any younger. Why don't we take the intellectual property that I've got and sell it to smaller businesses rather than in boardrooms? And she said, no, you're an idiot. We've still got kids at school and we're paying school fees. Just stick to what you're doing. I get called an idiot quite a bit. And I was an idiot because I didn't listen to her. And so therefore I threw in all the corporate stuff and decided that I was going to be Anthony Robbins and I would do the seminar circuit. And I remember the first seminar we did, I had 100 something businesses in the room because the Seinfeld campaign was running down under. So it was pretty easy to fill a room. Come and see the guy who Jerry trusts with his advertising. But of course, I was the only person in the room with teeth. And I asked the front row, what do you do for a living? And one lady was a life coach. The other lady made garden gnomes. And the other one was a psychic. And so I said to my wife at morning tea that day, I'm going to Costco at morning tea. She said, why? I said, to buy some rope. What the hell have we done? Okay. What the hell? We've come from Seinfeld to a garden gnome maker. And it really, Mick, it took me it was a culture shock to come from corporate down to small businesses and be able to speak their language, entirely different thing. And so anyway, we stuck with it, and here we are, a dozen years later. But when, we got into the small business sector, I absolutely knew that what I needed to do is write books. But they say to you, if you're going to be on the seminar stage or you're going to be doing webinars and this, that, and the other, you've got to have credibility. And the best way to have credibility, no need to tell you, is to have books. Yeah, so out came books like this one here, the Avalanche Leads Formula. I mean, that's what we do. We get a lot of leads for businesses very quickly. These days, back in the day, of course, it was TV, radio, newspaper. Now it's more Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. And so what happened is that the promoter that was putting me on stage said, you better hurry up and write a book. And so I just jumped on my handy little dictaphone and I dictaphoned this in a space of a few days and then gave it to basically a proofreader. As you know the game, and they go through and proofread it. Funny part about it, this is all about getting Avalanche leads. I was doing a webinar about 6 months ago, and this guy in the chat box comes on and says, listen, I just want to say thank you. I got the Avalanche Leads book. And he said, chapter 5 changed my entire business. I said, thank you very much. So that night I was in bed reading my book, and my wife, because I hadn't read it, I just basically pumped it out after I put it. And I'm being a bit cheeky. Of course, I read most of it, but chapter 5, I couldn't have a clue what he was talking about. So my wife says to me this night in bed, what are you doing? I said, I'm reading my book. She's reading your book. What are you doing? I said, chapter 5, it's not bad.
And would you recommend, it does seem like it's a successful route to take, that if you've written a book and you got the business to go on the speaker circuit, because other business leaders have done that as well. Would you recommend that as a process?
Yeah, look, these days it's more webinars and, I mean, you and I, here we are on other sides of the world and, we just basically don't need to catch a plane. We don't need to catch a bus or taxi, So if I'm invited to speak at a convention, I'll do it. But to put those events on, it would be $15,000 a time. So you got to be reasonably confident. By the time you hire the hotel convention room, and then they look after them with morning tea and lunch and afternoon tea, and then you've got to advertise to get people there on Facebook. And so I decided, look, the way the world's gone since COVID, because we can do this, then the best way to promote my services, which is marketing consultancy, is pretty much by webinar and podcast. But there's no question, if you are writing a book or you've already got books, then there's no question that the webinar, the podcast, and the seminar circuits is absolutely where you should be.
And then curious, a lot of business leaders don't necessarily know the publishing field. So I'm curious how you went through that process of how do you find a publisher? Did you think traditional? Did you think hybrid, self-publishing? And what was that process like?
Yeah, just self-publishing. I mean, you don't, and Mick, you're an expert at this, I'm not. So maybe you would advise people to go looking for a publisher. But in my instance, being in the marketing game and being an idiot, then basically my mantra is ready, fire, aim. So therefore, ready, aim, fire would be going looking for a publisher. I haven't got the time to do that. So I just self-publish. This is another one here, and it's the way I manifestos. And I've got all yellow sticker notes here because I'm actually preparing for a webinar tomorrow. So I've marked up all the pages I'm going to refer to. But this one here, it's 300 pages of all of the most successful, because I've had a lot of bad ones, by the way, but the most successful ideas that I've given to businesses. Now, whether that's, collect the stamps and you get the cookware or whatever it may be, it's all in that book. And if I was to go and talk to a publisher about this wizardry, I would have to work hard to convince that publisher that I would be worth putting money into. And I just figure, look, that's taking forever. So therefore, I just publish these things myself.
Yep. And if you talk about the content a little bit too, I mean, I know you said I'm asking about the process, but the content also, How did you come up with the content? You're taking examples of what you've done in your career. Have you got the stories in there?
Yeah. Look, and look, all jokes aside, this one here that I was being silly about with chapter 5 before, it was a chapter about losing $2.25 million in 1 week because a guy who worked for me made a big printing mistake, and it was many years ago. And that chapter 5 was all about not giving up, just making a bit of a comeback. And every time you see someone speaking, they've all got their comeback story. I understand that. I'm not unique. But he was in a bad way psychologically at the time. So when he read chapter 5, which is all about just never, ever, 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 ever giving up, he was very grateful for that. It had nothing at all to do necessarily with marketing, but it had to do with just, sticking in with it, hanging in there. And if you're going through hell, keep on going. And, when it comes time for the content of these things, look, I'm a baby boomer, so I've been doing this since the 1800s. So there's no problem at all in filling these books with case study after case study after case study. And what I tend to do with this is that I do make sure that that it's graphic heavy, not graphic heavy as in 200 pages and there's 180 pages of graphics. But what I do, for example, in this particular book here, because I teach people how to design a proper website, I'll put my sketches in there and show them, look, this is how you do a website. And that means is that it's not just words. I'm showcasing to them in real time, what the promotion looks like. And because I've been doing it forever, there's no problem with content. I've got case study after case study.
What would you recommend? I think because business leaders are interested in doing these things, or putting a book together and going on the speaker circuit. What kind of recommendations would you make for them in order to accomplish that?
Problem solution. Okay, because at the end of the day, if I was to ask anyone why they have decided to come to one of my events, or for that matter, have a Zoom call with me, it's because they've got a problem, which is normally not enough sales in their business, and they see that I might have the solution. And I think the same situation covers just about everything in life. I mean, psychiatrists only make money because people go to them with problems. The butcher only makes money because people go in, I've got a problem, I've got a barbecue on Saturday, I need meat, and so on and so forth. And I know that's dumbing it down to the extreme, but whatever you're good at, then that people are knocking on your door, or you hope they will, because they've got a problem for which you have the solution. And in my instance, normally the problem is that they are not making enough sales in their business. And the solution that we provide them is this direct response marketing stuff. So if I was to write any books, I would write a book based on somebody's problem and my solution.
Now, nobody likes making mistakes, and I'm sure you don't either. But if you were looking back on some of the things that you hadn't anticipated, or things went wrong during this whole process of putting a book together and publishing it and being a speaker, what would you have said, I've learned from this, or I would have done it differently?
Yep. As they say, Michael Jordan missed more hoops than anyone on the planet, but he tossed more hoops. And so therefore, he lost a lot of the time, but
Right.
he just kept. And it's to say, look, I've made a stack of mistakes. I try convincing my wife that it was not my fault, it was someone else's, but she knows the truth. So, we made a lot of mistakes. I guess really what I find is probably a good asset to have outside of just the skills you might have is humility. I'm a sarcastic bugger, so therefore I tell everyone I've never made a mistake, and then I say, oh no, in '92 I did make a mistake, but the mistake I made was that I thought I had made a mistake. I throw the sarcasm out, but it's I'm basically like Conan O'Brien, and I'm not putting myself in that category, but the reason we all love Conan is because he's silly and he's immature and he's this, that, and the other, but he makes fun of himself. He makes fun of himself before he makes fun of anyone else. And I tend to try and fall into that category because, nobody's perfect. I've made lots and lots of mistakes and still do, but it's just that when you reach this age, you don't make as many mistakes because you've had a pretty reasonable case history.
True.
So I would say to anyone who's, putting a book together, is that, make sure that you are the answer to somebody's problem, but at the same time, be like Conan O'Brien, just be down to earth and be real. There's nothing worse than these people who get out on stage or they get onto a webinar and they say, look, we don't need to be doing this because we're independently wealthy. I'm doing this because I want to give back. Yeah, sure. Yes, you're doing this because you're on your fourth marriage and you had to pay off a few people. Right?
And I'm curious then, having the experience that you have and with the both publishing and the career, what would the future entail? So are there more books coming, more speaking engagements, more, and what do you anticipate since you're a young guy and you've got to look towards the future?
Yeah, look, really good question, Mick. And in my instance, look, I'm at the back end of my career, but because we had 6 kids and they took all our money, I'm still working. And anybody with a Von Trapp family would know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Yeah, and in your instance, Mick, how many kids have you got?
I've only got the one, so see, I had a little different experience there.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, whenever we got on an airplane, a Qantas airplane, to go to visit the Disney office in Los Angeles, so it's a 12-hour trip, of course, for us Aussies, and we had small children at the time, you could see everyone in that Qantas plane just praying to the Lord above that they don't sit anywhere near me, right? And little did they know, my wife, used to be a school teacher, but she's not anymore. Well, when we had the kids, she couldn't be, but she was awake up to the fact that there's a pharmaceutical drug called Phenergan, which sends the kids to sleep, basically. And so therefore, everyone on that plane just breathed a sigh of release when the kids all went to sleep within an hour of the plane taking off. Little did they know what we were doing. Yeah, look, writing a book is very, very important. There's no question about that. I think it probably comes second these days to having a web page or a website, because the first thing we all do when we come across an opportunity is we go straight to the website. So it's really, really important that you have a good website that's not designed by a bearded hipster. I always say, look, it's easy to look at somebody as a prospect for helping you if you look at their history. And that's the good thing about a website, and the good thing about a book is that if you've got a rich history of some successes, then you will gain credibility like crazy by having a book about that or having a website about that. And what a lot of people do is they wax lyrical in the book or wax lyrical in the web page, and it sounds very nice and it's all fluffy, but there's no what we call meat and veggies. Okay, where's the meat and where's the vegetables? I want to know what your history was, and I want to know why you are now number one in whatever that might be. So I'd say problem solution is the content, and demonstrating a rich history of where you've been up until now.
If you were trying to give some actionable tips, I'm curious because the audience always think, okay, well, what are the tips that you would say, like summarize both from your career, your profession, and the writing process? So what kind of actionable tips can I say, I want to apply it now?
You mean in putting a book together, Mick?
Yeah, book, and also in terms of your business expertise. So you know something about that as well.
Yeah, okie dokie. You know what? I've been to the Anthony Robbins seminars. I mean, lots and lots of them, and you probably have too. And these days, because everyone's a motivator, no matter what you do, when you open up your laptop in the morning, there's someone screaming at you that they can fix your depressed life.
Yeah.
So it's a busy marketplace out there in terms of so-called experts. But again, there's no doubt that I milked the Seinfeld thing 10 years later. And the reason I do that is because not many people get to sort of work with someone at that level for 3 years.
Sure.
And so, and it's just like the musicians. If they've got a couple of hit songs, they're going to sing them every time they're on concert. So therefore, I don't make any sort of apologies for it. I try not to be silly about it, but I bring it up because it shows the depth of my marketing skills to be able to get someone like that. And look, whilst I'm here, I may as well show off. I also got Michael Jordan and Meatloaf, and I got Paul Hogan, Crocodile Dundee, to do all sorts of things for us over the years. The Seinfeld one is probably up there with the top, but I've been backwards and forwards to New York with all sorts of things. And so therefore, if you've got that, if not that sort of history, but if you've got a history of perhaps excelling at whatever you might do in life, then don't be frightened to make sure that that's up front and center when you're marketing yourself online or you're marketing yourself by a book. The book thing, just do it. I mean, with ChatGPT these days, I'm not sure what your views on that, Mick, are, but with that sort of AI technology these days, you can write a book in a matter of days. It's no longer takes 6 months.
Absolutely. So a person has heard, what your advice is, the problems you solve. Now I'm curious, and of course other people are too. How do they get a hold of you? How do they get a hold of your books? Where are they available? And you're speaking too. How and where can they find you?
Well, they can't, Mick. I've got my own private island because I'm so wealthy these days, and I don't talk to anyone. So I wish that was the truth. I just wish that was the truth. Yeah, sure. By the way, just before I do answer that, in terms of my philosophy on business, and this doesn't make it right, it just happens to be my philosophy, is that I always say to people, look, if you're going to set up any business, do not concentrate on price. And the reason that that building society did so well and took billions and billions and billions of dollars worth of extra home loans is because for 10 years, not once did they ever advertise an interest rate. In other words, a price. They were the only bank in the world that never advertised. Can you imagine a bank coming on television and social media saying, get a home loan from us without telling you what the interest rate was?
Yeah.
And what we did, even before Seinfeld, we took their eyes off the price. We said, get a home loan from this particular bank and get a free vacation. And that was it. Whereas every other bank's out there, 6.2%. And if they had gone down the path of advertising an interest rate at 5.8%, then the Wells Fargo would be 5.7% within an hour. Okay, so you can't win. So what I suggest to people is always come up with what we call a value add. And that may even be in your book. You may say to them, look, if you read chapter whatever, there's a secret code in there. And if you enter that code on my webpage, then you're in the chance to win, whatever it might be. Now, they're going to read your book when they know there's secret codes throughout that book, no matter what your subject matter is. So I always say to people, McDonald's Happy Meal toy is the philosophy you should have, okay? We all know that toy, well, I know that toy cost McDonald's 25 cents out of China, but it's worth $5 in Kmart. And so therefore, when you buy the Happy Meal, the parent or the grandparent gets a toy for the children that they see is valued at $5, but only cost them 25 cents. That's what I suggest to people. If you've got a Me Too product, so your solar panels look the same as everyone else's, then don't market on price. Make sure you value add, come up with a Happy Meal toy. I mean, even Amazon these days, if you're a member of the Prime membership club, you get free music and free movies and all sorts of stuff, free shipping. The local coffee shop down the road, you get 10 stamps on your little reward card, you get a free coffee. So stop marketing on price and market on incentives or direct response marketing.
Got it. Sure. Makes sense.
And the contact details for me, really simple, mate. John@theinstituteofwow.com. So that's my personal email. There's no info or admin at. It's just John, JOHN, @theinstituteofwow.com. The website is theinstituteofwow.com. And if you want this free book called the Avalanche Leads Formula, you can get the digital version of that again for free if you go to bookofwow.com. So we're called the Institute of Wow. So therefore, this is bookofwow.com.
Awesome. Very easy. Make it simple, and you're not hiding from folks, I guess. So good to hear. John, thank you so much for your expertise. And I'm sure it helps a lot of people because they go through these things all the time and they think about it, but I think you've actually done it. And that's where the credibility comes in. So thank you for your time. I appreciate what you were able to share today.
My pleasure, Mick. All the best.
All right. Thank you so much. This is always great for me because I learn a lot about the process and learn about other people as well and what they're doing. I also want to thank the supporters of the program, that is, publishers of both Burning America and also On Track Ian Hunter, for their support of the program. If you want to reach out and you've got some ideas, I am the Idea to Author Coach on Facebook, and it can be done. So let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it a little bit. Okay. So until the next time, this is Dr. Digital signing off. Till that time again, Deus Volt.